Hola todos! This is going to be my last big video on the actual content of the movie Volver for A-level Spanish students. In this video, I'm going to summarize the entire plot, as well as talk about loads of quotes and their importance. So this is pretty much a two-in-one video, a summary of the plot and quotes. I've put lots of images from the movie too, to help rejog your memory. Vale, vamos a empezar. This film has a very Manchegan start, with the song Las Aspiradoras, que simboliza el trabajo duro que realizan las mujeres manchegas en su día a día. La primera escena is in the village in the cemetery, with a strong east wind, referred to as el viento solano. Raimonda, Sole, and Paula are cleaning the gravestone of Irene, who supposedly died 4 years ago. Watch my previous Volver videos if you're confused who the characters are and their relations. Raimonda has the opinion that her parents died in a lucky way, in each other's arms while they were sleeping, but Sole disagrees, because they died in a fire, which she says is the worst way to die. Then, just as those three were about to leave, Agustina comes to clean her own tomb. When she sees Paula, she comments that she has los mismos ojos de tu padre, being Raimonda's dad. This sets the audience up to know that things are not the way they seem, because of course later on we find out that Paula's biological dad is also Raimunda's dad, so Agostina's comment is correct. The weather, and specifically the wind, is a big part of the scene. When they talk about the fire that killed their parents, we can assume that the fire spread so quickly as a result of the strong winds in Castilla-La Mancha. Raimunda calls it el viento de los cojones. As they leave the cemetery, Paula asks, ¿Es verdad que la Agustina viene a arreglar su propia tumba? And Raimunda replies, sí, aquí es costumbre. Then, Raimunda, Sole y Paula visitan a la tía Paula, que vive sola. Soledad goes upstairs and finds an exercise bike, which of course is incredibly shocking for an old woman like tía Paula. On the journey back to Madrid a little after this scene, she tells Raimunda what she found. Here again suspicions are raised for both Raimunda y Sole and the audience on how Tia Paula is able to live on her own. Something is not as it seems. After going to Paula's house, pasan por casa de Agustina, donde hablan sobre la desaparición de la madre de Agustina. Y Raimunda y Sole se sorprenden de que Agustina cultive su propia marihuana y la fume. And Sole tells Agustina, habla de nuestra madre como si estuviera viva. In this scene, we also learn a bit more about Agustina. She's proud of the fact that her mother was la única hippie del pueblo, and shows Paula her jewelry made from un plástico buenísimo. Después, Raimonda, Sole y Paula drive back to Madrid. Here we get one of our first more important scenes, where we see Paco and we get a look inside Raimonda's flat in Madrid. When they arrive in Madrid, they meet Regina, a Cuban prostitute from the neighborhood. This is the first time we see her, and her character becomes quite important in showing female solidarity later on. When Raimonda and Paula enter their house, we find out that Paco has been fired, with the quote, me han despedido. Here we see Raimonda stepping up as a mother, as she offers to get another job to run the household, on her only days off, Sundays. She also says, somos una familia pobre y viviremos como una familia pobre, telling Paula to get off the phone. Paco is watching football on the TV and stares at Paula as she sits on the couch. Más tarde en la cama, Raimunda dice que está preocupada por su tía, y rechaza a Paco cuando la besa. When Raimunda comes home from her job at the airport, she sees Paula standing outside in the rain. Paula confiesa que Paco, borracho, intentó abusar de ella y tuvo que defenderse. Raimunda enters the kitchen, sees the dead body, and Paula explains what happened. She says, se desabrochó el pantalón, diciendo siempre que aquello no era malo y que no era mi padre. Raimunda somewhat shockingly says, Paula, recuerda que fui yo quien lo mató y que tú no lo viste porque estabas en la calle. Es muy importante que recuerdes eso, to protect her daughter and shift any blame away from her. Luego, Raimunda limpia toda la sangre y cuando está a punto de mover el cuerpo de Paco al frigorífico de su cocina, un vecino, Emilio, llama a la puerta. Emilio comes to give Raimunda the keys of the restaurant, so she can show other potential buyers around. When Emilio notices the blood stain on her neck, he asks what happened. Raimunda cleverly replies, cosas de mujeres, knowing Emilio won't ask any further questions. And just after, Sole calls to inform Raimunda that Aunt Paula has died. Here, Raimunda says that she can't attend the funeral, and Sole doesn't understand why. She lies by saying that she has a ton of ironing to do, so there is no way she can attend. She then tells Sole to lie to the people at the funeral, saying she had an operation of some sort. En esta escena vemos a Raimunda y Paula metiendo el cuerpo de Paco en el ascensor y transportándolo to a freezer in Emilio's restaurant. Then, in the morning, when Raimunda goes to check up on the body, a man comes to the restaurant looking for a place for his team of 30 film crew to eat. Without any sort of hesitation, Raimunda says yes. We can assume she does this in desperation for money now that Paco is dead. She immediately goes to the market to buy food, and on her way home, she meets two neighbors, Regina, who we've seen before, and Ines. She asks them for help and buys the food they have from them, promising she'll pay them back tomorrow. Her first day serving the film team is a success. Then Tia Paula's funeral takes place in Agostina's house. Sole drives to La Mancha and enters La Casa de Tia Paula. She finds herself face to face with her mother, and in fear or in shock, she runs to Agostina's house, where she accidentally barges into the funeral and is greeted by Agostina. Agostina mentions that she is aware that Raimunda couldn't come because of her operation, and Sole is once again forced to lie. One thing to note is that men and women are separated during the funeral, and all the women immediately go to hug Sole as she enters. Almodovar is portraying a typical Manchegan funeral. The women of the village, dressed from head to toe in black, celebrate Aunt Paula's wake with prayers and gossip. There's a lot of talk about who warned Agostina that La Tia had died. What the three neighbors say in these quotes: Fue su espíritu quien te avisó, pero el espíritu de Paula o de la otra, cualquiera de las dos, clearly shows how common this sort of gossip was, and how fearlessly they talk about superstitions. Augustina takes Solo to another room, where she gives her some food. Augustina tells her that there are people who have seen Irene, and say that apparitions of the dead are part of daily life. The next scene is the actual return of Irene, who of course is hiding in the boot of Sole's car as she drives back to Madrid. Sole is shocked to see her, but quite quickly accepts her, and they both go to Sole's house. Irene asks Sole if she still has the salon, and she replies, Claro, de eso vivo. Then Raimunda llama por teléfono y le cuenta que se ha quedado con el restaurante de Emilio, y miente a Sole al decirle que Paco la ha abandonado. As Sole and Irene continue talking, Irene tells her the truth about her father and his cheating. Yo estaba ciega con tu padre, y se aprovechó, y me puso los cuernos hasta el último día de su vida. We also learn more about Sole in this scene. She is seen as lonely and says, Estoy sola, como siempre. We find out her husband left 2 years ago and hasn't contacted her since. The next day, Raimunda pays Regina and Ines for all the food they gave her the day before, and generously gives them more money than she owed them. They help Raimunda transport a fridge to the restaurant, as the fridge that's already in the restaurant has Paco's body inside. She lies by saying it doesn't work. Meanwhile, Sole cuts and dyes her mother's hair. She asks her mother if there's anything that she wants her to do, because Agostina said people come back from the dead to complete things that were left undone. Irene responds, Siempre hay cosas que se dejan sin hacer o que se hacen mal, y mi vida no ha sido una excepción, pero no sé si tiene arreglar, y si lo tienen me corresponde a mí arreglarlas. A lot of this, I think, is in reference to her relationship with Raimunda, which fortunately we get to see improve later on. They decide that she will impersonate a Russian immigrant and help her with the clients of her illegal salon. At the restaurant, El Chico talks to Raimunda and tells her that he wants to use the terrace for the end of shoot party, whilst flirting a bit with her. In the afternoon, Raimunda and Paula visit Sole's house, and she acts in a very strange way, hiding the fact that Irene is with her. In the bathroom, Raimunda recognizes a characteristic smell that reminds her of her mother, which makes them all laugh. Raimunda gets very angry when she opens the closet and sees her mother's clothes, saying La ropa de los muertos se hay que regalarla, and Aunt Paula's suitcase, which she accuses Soledad of stealing. Raimunda storms out the house with Paula. Then we get on to one of the more lively scenes, the end of filming party. While Paula is decorating the restaurant for the party, she realizes that Paco's body is still in the freezer, and Raimunda says she wasn't able to get rid of the body. Then at home, while Paula is not in the mood for the party, she confesses that she does not stop thinking about the death of her father, to which Raimunda confesses that Paco was not her biological father, and that she will soon tell her the truth of everything. She says another half lie, saying Paula's biological father is someone from the village and that he is dead. Then it cuts to the party, which is lively and goes well. Sole and Irene drive to the restaurant, and Sole returns Dia Paula's suitcase, while Irene hides in the car. At that moment, they can hear the famous song Volver, and Raimunda, full of energy, decides to sing the song. Paula says she has never heard her mum sing, and in a way to distract Paula or give Paula something to smile about, she goes to sing. Irene is still in the back of the car, and she is seen crying upon hearing Raimunda sing. The next day, a man by the name of Carlos va al restaurante y llama a Raimunda para verlo. She immediately begins to lie and says that a neighbor has taken her over. Then Raimunda llama a una empresa para alquilar una furgoneta. On the phone to Emilio, Raimunda says that the man seems suspicious, hence she did not show him around. As Paula watches her mom lie on the phone, Raimunda begins to confess everything to Emilio. Sin embargo, Raimunda miente otra vez, diciendo que Paco le ha abandonado, and she wants him to understand the position that she's in. On her way to Sole's house, Raimunda receives a call from Agustina, who is in hospital, and tells Raimunda she has cancer. Raimunda then leaves Paula with Sole and goes to visit Agustina. At the hospital, Agustina asks Raimunda that if Irene appears to her as a ghost, ask her where her mother is. Agustina does not want to die without knowing if her mother is alive or not. Raimunda thinks she is crazy for asking this. Raimunda seems the most apprehensive about ghosts and the apparitions of dead people. Agustina also tells her that her sister Brigida, who works in television, would like to arrange a reunion with Raimunda on the TV show, to which Raimunda refuses. Just before I continue, I have put a PDF on my website with all of this information and more in a written PDF form, so if you would like to download that, the link is in the description. It's completely free and it has loads of quotes and the full plot summary with pictures all in chronological order. It's a resource that I will be using to study, so I hope you find it useful too. Vale, continuamos. It cuts back to Sole's house, where Sole and two of her clients are talking about reality TV or telebasura. One client says a really important quote about telebasura. Es que la telebasura tiene algo, ¿eh? Yo cuando me siento delante del televisor no puedo dejarlo. Me voy sintiendo cada vez peor, pero no puedo levantar. A mí es como la droga. Then Irene explains her past a bit to Paula. She talks about Raimunda's childhood and how for a reason she did not know, they both grew apart. This is quite an important scene as well. Irene says, Tu madre no me quería. Es muy doloroso que una hija no quería a su madre. She tells Paula to love her mom a lot, and that Raimunda needs to feel her love. Raimunda goes to a shop to buy materials to bury Paco. She gets the van in which she is going to transport Paco's body. She then drives to Sole's house to let Sole know Paula will be staying there overnight, while Raimunda is busy burying the body. Raimunda says another lie to Sole, that Paco wants to come over to talk, hence she wants to be alone. Then she drives to Regina's house, asking her for help, and in return Raimunda will pay her. Neighbors help them move the fridge with Paco's body inside the van. Raimunda and Regina drive to the river and bury the body. On the way there, we learn about Regina's life and how she makes a living. Regina says, No tengo trabajo, no tengo papeles, tengo que hacer la calle para poder sobrevivir, and ahora soy tu cómplice. Even though helping Raimunda is risky, she does it anyway, showing how women work together to get ahead. Once they reach the river, they dig a trench and bury the freezer. Raimunda scratches Paco's initials on a tree next to the ditch. At the restaurant the next morning, Raimunda receives a visit from Agustina. She's come to see if Raimunda has found any more information about the disappearance of her mother. She ends up confessing a lot to Raimunda. Mi madre se fue por la mañana, pero fue para reunirse con tu padre en la casilla. Mi madre estaba liada con tu padre, porque tu padre había nacido para hacer sufrir a las mujeres que le quería. Raimunda struggles to believe what Agustina is saying. Raimunda and Paula walk to Sole's house. Paula says they should let Sole know they're coming, because Irene won't have time to hide. Raimunda comes to talk to Sole about Tia Paula's house, as they're planning on selling it. As Paula is watching TV, Agustina comes up on her sister's show. Sole, Raimunda and Sole's client all rush in front of the TV. Agostina talks about her mother's disappearance and her cancer. She gets up halfway through the interview and abandons it because she doesn't want to answer the presenter's seemingly intimate and irrelevant questions. Raimunda proceeds to talk to Sole about what Agostina was saying. Sole slowly reveals that Irene has been appearing all the time to her. There's some really nice quotes in this scene. Raimunda asks, "Hay más cosas que yo debería saber y que no sé," and Sole replies, "Mogollón." Raimunda slowly realizes what Sole is trying to say. ¿Quién crees que hacía los barquillos y los ponía en un Tupperware, uno para ti y otro para mí? ¿Quién crees que se trajo las muñecas y las cosas de valor de la tía? She asks, ¿Es ella por casualidad la rusa? Then Irene and Raimunda meet. Raimunda asks, ¿Pero no estaba muerta? And Irene responds, He vuelto para pedirte perdón. Yo no sabía nada, hija mía. Raimunda storms out with Paula for a second time in the movie. Outside, she breaks down, crying, and Paula suggests they go back. This is the final scene. Raimunda and Irene have a long chat while walking. Irene explains everything. She apologizes for not seeing her husband's behavior. Que tu padre había abusado de ti, que te quedaste embarazada y que Paula es tu hija y es tu hermana. ¿Cómo pudo ocurrir semejante monstruosidad delante de mis ojos sin que yo me diera cuenta? All four of them then drive back to the village. They stop by the river where Paco was buried. They talk about how the droughts in Spain have caused the river to dry up a lot. Of course, Raimunda knows for a fact it has dried up, because she went there recently to bury the body. Paula notices Paco's initials on the tree, and she and her mother have a moment alone, thinking about Paco. The four of them return to Tia Paula's house and cook and eat dinner. Agostina briefly visits to apologize for going on the show. Irene goes into Agostina's house and tells her she will take care of her until she dies. It's the least she can do after being responsible for the death of Agostina's mother. And lastly, Raimunda and Irene have a chat outside, promising to see each other every day and talk about everything. Vale, that's the entire plot of Volver. This video has taken me ages to record, so drop a like if you found it worthwhile, and remember you can download the PDF from my website, a-spanish.com/A-level. Subscribe for more A-level Spanish videos and I'll see you in the next one. Adios!